So we will just very briefly go through some formal and informal issues, more like what is the daily life, um, uh, what have I done, helping member-based organizations, or regional networks, which is, I think, yeah, I think the case here. So we go very informally and briefly. I will try to be as brief as possible so that after we have some time for discussion and dialogue. So basically the ECOSOC is an advanced or qualified participation status, the UN grants for civil society organizations, not only on human rights, but on engineering, environment, business community. We have for example, the World Chamber of Commerce being an ECOSOC member. So this qualified participation grant us specifically some special places at the UN to have a better influence. So first, the physical access, give us it gives us access to the premises of places, so you just need a simple accreditation to allow its members, to be in the plenary session, in the case of Geneva, in the negotiation rooms, so if they are negotiation a resolution, let's say on the rights of the child, so you will have a special standing to speak with delegates, formally or informally share your views. You can also, during plenaries, deliver oral or written statements, in the plenary session, also lobbying with diplomats, and depending on the kind of event, you have the right from 7 to 9 members of the organization to accredit. The UN and the diplomatic environment being as such, what they call delegation, something very informal. We have a joke that is not always a joke, that the diplomacy is the most military activity in the civil service and the most civil in the military service, meaning that if you're at the delegation, you are engaged, engaged in hostility. You are engaged. So as such, you're playing a game of a delegation. So this requires some types of formality or of a way, how to proceed with. But I'm here to make it as easy as informal, possible. You have obtained this status through a difficult process, highly politicized. We have the Committee on NGO that has a composition of states that are not very open for participation of NGOs. There are NGOs that were hanging in the Committee on NGOs for over 14 years, which is the case of the Dalit community, IDSN. You have also exchange of files between enemy countries and enemy blocks, like one questioning the other. We have presence of gongos, what are called the government NGOs on that. So, congratulations, you've been through that. But just to give a first, just to draw like a background on what you have achieved so far. So, but now that you have granted it, you have the right for both an annual accreditation in the UN headquarters, being New York, Geneva, or Vienna, Nairobi, I will not go through all these details. No, more than happy to help you afterwards. But you have like an annual accreditation, and also accreditations for, let's say, Committee on the Rights of the Child, or the Human Rights Council sessions, or the UPR sessions, which is very much facilitated now. So Family for Every Child just issues an accreditation letter, and the delegate goes through the Indico platforms and uploads the letter and makes this accreditation, which is today is much simplified. There is one issue which is important. So I'm presenting you one formal and topic, and another informal one. It is, I put there an underline and exclamation point that now that the ball is rolling for you, that you make sure in 4 years, or every 4 years, you present on time your quadriennial report. There are simple things that many partners they don't do, because it's normal. We are running our core business, either on the ground. So because of simple things, when you do your profile, probably you register your profile through the general email of organization, info@organization.org, and then you receive those reminders on an email that is flooded with many messages. So just, it will be nice if you update that. So keep that. Normally through other systems like donor reporting, colleagues are able now to compile, like every year, simplified information on the activity and so on. What we're seeing, not to avoid exposure, because sometimes comments and criticism come from places we just can't foresee. So the quadriennial report is normally done through a sober, text of the list of activities you did on that year, and there is a risk of, if you don't deliver on time, you are suspended. And then to regain it, you need to move your political strings again, to be in the system again, and to go through the ECOSOC committee, which is not really easy. And one informal aspect here, is to observe the rules of the resolution that created 96/31. It's not always easy. There are fluid parameters, no clear rules. The protocol rules, they are not always clear. There are just a few lines on that resolution that you should, keep the principles of the United Nations, but this can be interpreted. But if you, in normal terms, if you just do your work professionally as you usually do, there shouldn't be a problem for that. But there's an issue now also on language, balance of language. There's always a possibility of being strong, sharp within a proper language. When you make oral statements, in my own case, for example, CIMI is a Brazilian indigenous people's NGO. So we always we deal with issues do we say there is a genocide going on, or a risk of genocide? Is a political question that you can you might consider, there is an NGO from Switzerland, it's a team that raised a issue, no, regarding Turkey on the Kurdish, how the Kurdish issue is very tangential and very indirect, that in the end led to a suspension of sitting for a number of years, you know. And because of universality or because of that, you know, so the secretariat doesn't allow flags or symbols, you know. Also, you know, whenever you do a statement that you are backed with, you know, hard data, you know, in your oral statements, you just make a footnote and put the reference, because whenever a diplomat would approach you, just, you know, calmly and professionally say, hey, this is based on hard data, you know, this is, you know, whenever we can, we quote even government sources that are on our favor, you know. If you do, for example, a side event as a matter of courtesy, you don't need formally to invite the state in question if you're speaking about a country, but if you have a fluid conversation, just politely do that. We're doing, you know, a country and present a good or bad practice about this country, you know, so that they are given the opportunity to be there and speak. So, I don't know, you present in a case of, I don't know, just called Guatemala. So if you know that they are in the room and normally they put their nameplate, no, yeah, it's advisable that the moderator, you know, recognize, you know, so we notice that the delegation is here, would like to share some thoughts in a very nice way, you know. If the diplomat uses aggressive language, we just stay calm, and there are other, you know, ways to address it, but just that you show that you're giving opportunity for the other parties to speak, to have a frank dialogue, and so on and so on, you know? Yeah, this is one example of a country like Brazil that doesn't have a official language as UN language, you know. So always make sure that the panelists, they speak UN official language, either directly or through an interpreter. This, I mean, this is nothing really serious, but to avoid that you get like emails or warnings from the secretariat, you know, just a matter of doing that. You are a member, you know, a network-based organization. So you know, normally, you know, the partners would be accredited within this umbrella, you know. But whenever you have another partner outside, you know, just to make sure that if they are badged under your umbrella, they are, just putting in the military line, they are combatants, they are delegates from your organization. So that you know, you are free to go, you know, you are free to deliver statement, but please don't speak on behalf of us because of this and that and that. And there are simple ways to do it, you know. When you are an alliance or when you co-sponsor an event, or just landing in space to a partner NGO, you know, there's this one phrase, you know, that solves the problem, you know. I thank you, you know, One Family for Every Child, for, you know, giving the space. My name is this, from this organization, you know, and you do it, you know. And there are just simple things that if you do it, you should be okay. You know, if your partner also, you know, I mean, outside the network, distribute materials, you know, just make sure that distributing in the right places, and, you know, because there's always an issue that UN comes with unwritten rules, new principles that you don't know. There is not a, like say, an ethic, a behavioral code or anything, But these are problems that we also face domestically, It's government officials that sometimes criticize. It means that we're shining. If you're doing a good work, there's always criticism that will come across. And I just want to check how much time I have left.
I think we can still.
Pode seguir, Paulo.
Okay.
Ainda temos mais 8 minutos.
Okay, good. Yes. So for networks, which is your case, and, which is very interesting because what you bring is really legitimacy from the ground. That's so good for the UN, to burst the New York or Geneva bubble, is to have this experience, in all senses. We go through that, you bring legitimacy, we bring first-hand information in all sense, even that you break dress codes. No, there is no dress code at UN. You just as you go. I've been through so many crazy experiences about it, Let me tell you one anecdote. Yes, I was dealing, I've been working with indigenous people. Sometimes I accompany them and say, they just come with sneakers, their feathers. Why should I wear, even a suit, And then the other day I just put the jeans and so on. And then there was a leader said, no, look, I want you to dress your suit, your tie, because you are our lawyer defending us. So I want that that you address, according to Geneva Code, with bravery, to scare the enemies. You never know. This is a learning process. I said, no, this is my feather. This is my force. Your force is your strength is your tie. So please wear it. You never know. So you go back to your hotel and, these are, I think that, there is not a certain, there's not a rule for that, Another experience is working on the process declaration of rights of peasants, They came with their farming boots, and that's what they are. Yeah. But then on the other hand, to share the information about the members, that also the secretariat is not overloaded with this. There are it's advisable to have a simplified communication system, so the members that they know what are the yearly opportunities, for example, Ghana partners work with an issue that will be dealt only in the September session of the Human Rights Council, for example. So that partner, will spend, its resources wisely, and will go only in September instead of only going in March. It's always nice, to travel to New York or Geneva. You always learn good experiences, but really to maximize, to have these yearly plans of what are the topics that are being discussed, So when, why, how, that you don't have this, wow, great UN experience, but in the empty, that you didn't do enough meetings, or I don't know. Yeah. For example, the special rapporteur on extreme poverty. Too bad. In September, he was here in June. So and also to balance, in session trips or out of session trips, balance visibility that, your partner is there, takes pictures, tweets from Geneva or New York, but this is a bit slow because, Geneva is crowded. or you balance that with a meeting, you know, or a trip to Geneva or New York outside session that you just do so many meetings, you know, you met the teams of the rapporteurs that are much more free, you know, they have more time to speak with you, you know, just that you, when you discuss your yearly activity, so visibility and speed. It's very nice to be in the UN, but you know, like simple things, you know, the interlocutors are busy, you know, you speak in the plenary in advantage, but you don't do as many meetings as you know, as you wished. When I talk with an umbrella or network organization and so on, I know it's always hard to have a one person dealing, you know, specifically with international issues. You know, this is not necessary. You know, you don't need to hire in each and every organization one new person. You know, because in the end the work is mixed. You know, so there's a two-way flow of information. You know. But then it would be nice to have at least one point of contact, you know, that the person of contact know that in March, it will be interesting to have this, you know. In October, there is the review of South Africa so that we can address, you know, one specific situation. So we have one, I don't know, and on extreme poverty, we're dealing with, you know, like street children from this member that has a very interesting approach, released a report. So then you just can map much better the opportunity. And this colleague will be, you know, really familiar with like simple paperwork, like copies of passport, visa, if necessary, accreditation. This is simple. It takes just some time for adjustment, you know, but it's interesting that the information flows among the members. You know, you know, I always insist with my national colleagues, please give 10 minutes, you know, to the international advocacy. Please, you know, I had this problem before yesterday, you know, when they hear me, it's very interesting. Yeah, we should have more time, you know, and then, this is the challenge. But once the national members are here and they connect, you know, their national advocacies, you know, with the international advocacy, it is really interesting, you know. Just sharing an experience, you know. Don't think, you know, that you are the international guy, that you will be exciting. No, more and more diplomats, they want to hear a colleague from the ground, a victim, you know, a local project, you know. Whenever I write an email to a diplomat and I say, oh, I'm also meeting, you know, the head of delegation now is our chief tribe from this and that. I said, oh, okay, now I will hear someone, you know, really, you know, interesting. You know, and we have, it's not a rule, you know, but we have a practice or principle, you know, to that local speakers, you know, local partners, they speak on the plenary, you know. You know, in the end, it's you know, the encounters of culture, you know, even aesthetics. We talked about it, you know, different approaches on human rights. Like, wow, in Geneva, you know, they have this principle that we don't use on the ground. Or, you know, we have like an international NGO that say, wow, I never thought about it. Now how the Zimbabwean colleague deals with this and that, you know. Just another tip, another thought, you know, whenever we exposed to the UN, you know, we always think about the 10 treaty bodies and the nearly 50 thematic procedures, that we also keep a balance, like we have the logical mechanism, Committee on the Rights of the Child, the special advisor on the special representative of the rights of the child, a few diplomats that deal with issues, but it's nice also to share or to lobby some relevant some other topics also, I don't know, for example, issue of indigenous children, the girl child, for example, access to water, children, freedom of expression, in relate. I don't know. I'm just trying to build out some example topics, how children perceive racism, that you don't focus only on, the like child mechanism, but that you spread through, I know that it takes lots of work, but within the year, a selection of inputs to some of the rapporteurs will be interesting, that you also keep your working in the intersectional. And sometimes you are creative, you don't get a slot, and this happens. You don't get a slot to speak specifically on a child-related debate, but then you get one on extreme poverty, on albinism, or on whatever. So this, I mean, your plan sometimes needs some adjustment because of the thing. And one last issue I would like to point out is the reprisal procedures. If you have an ECOSOC status and you have a work related to the United Nations, not necessarily rights of the child, human rights, it can be environment, it can be pollution, engineering, but whenever you deal with human rights with the UN, either in one of the headquarters or dealing with country office, you are engaging formally with the UN, so you are protected with a nice mechanism that you can report to the UN. Lola is our colleague dealing there. You can opt to present a case on the that will be dealt in the September session, and make sure that the partners traveling to Geneva, New York, and Nairobi or Vienna, they are aware of that. That are indirect. There are very direct reprisals. New colleagues from the work from the ground, it, like don't do that, otherwise I will arrest you, or that you were arrested, or that they broke in your office, to steal working material, or some indirect, like you shouldn't be here, I kindly advise you not to do that, or or improper, unpolite behavior that really scares or causes a chilling effect. And there is a mechanism of calling the ambassador. It's a huge embarrassment for the country that is engaged or involving in reprisals. So I will leave some time now for discussion, for any other issue that you might have, and happy to share with you further then.